So I actually came up to Kendra and was like, I could teach something in the spring. And then she reached out to me because the other person who was supposed to come today couldn't come. So I was like, I guess I can throw something together quicker than I expected. But I just wanted to talk a little bit today about using a flipped classroom approach for music lessons. When I say flipped classroom, what does that mean to you guys? Has anyone ever heard of that before?
Yeah, I thought when I got the email that it meant switching the role of student and teacher.
Yes.
So,
Well, I am actually going to do some of that
okay.
in the way that, like, because I think it has dual meanings. But what do you think, Carrie?
Using media to have students study something on their own before coming to be taught by you.
Yes, and this is something that, like, in music in regular school classrooms, and even at BYU Idaho for sure, in the college way that they present things, it's happening more and more now that there is so much technology and information out there that anyone can access. It's changing the way that we learn, because it's not like the only person that you can learn anything from is your devoted teacher that knows everything, right? You can find lots of amazing resources to learn, and I'm the first one to say that, like, I'm not the only person that can teach things to my students. In fact, there's other people that can do it in a much more engaging way because they like technology more than I do. But I thought it was funny when I AI'd this. I Googled, to see what does AI think a flipped classroom in the music studio is. And this isn't the picture. This is actually a flipped experience that I had with my students. But it brought up something about inversions, because AI just thought, well, what is flipped in the music studio? It's inversions. But that's not what we're talking about today. This is actually, in my studio, something that I do is, they have a challenge every month of the year. And one month of the year, I have a You Be the Teacher challenge. And so I have my studio is set up where I have two students come at once. I have one do lab and the other one's with me. But first we do a little game. And so they're with me, but then they're learning whether they're using iPad apps to play games, or they're watching little tutorial videos, or watching a sample of their music. And so for this, I just compiled a bunch of videos that other people had prepared about different music concepts. And then I had them choose which concept they wanted to do, and then they watched the video, and then I had them create an illustration or a poster or come up with an activity that they were going to teach the other students in the group lesson. So that's kind of more like what Lisa said, that's a different way of thinking about flipped learning. But I just loved how, like, I'm not this artistic or creative, but I loved how the student came up with this illustration to represent inversions, and it's probably going to stick in their mind forever. And when they do art like this, I put it on my studio, the board that I have. And it's funny to notice how many students, when they walk in, like, they'll come over and look at it, and, like, they want to see what the next new thing is, and they're curious. And so then they're asking me questions about it. So I have, like, 7-year-olds who are not learning about inversions yet, wanting to know, like, what is this? And so I love how the students, even if they're not present in the room with the other students, are sparking curiosity for the other students in my studio through this flipped learning activity. Let's go to the next one. So I love this quote, and this is kind of the theme of my whole thing today. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. I'm just a big advocate of not just telling your students things, but getting them to participate. And I think that's something that this flipped learning gets them to do, because it's not just me coming to lesson and I'm like the cup of water and I'm trying to dump the cup of water into them and hoping that some of it, like, sticks and absorbs inside and some of it's dribbling off. But they're coming to the lesson with some things prepared, and then it's like we're sharing together in the experience and doing a lot of hands-on things, not besides just obviously playing the piano and playing instruments is hands-on, but other activities that are off the bench, which I've taught about a lot in another workshop. So my studio has evolved over time in lots of ways. And when I first started teaching, like 25-ish years ago, I would just write notes in my lesson books about the activities that I wanted to incorporate in addition to whatever's in the book. Whether it was like, here's a supplementary piece, or here's a game we could play with the student. And so all of my copies of the books have all of these notes in them. And so before a student would come, then I only had like 3 or 4 students because I had 6 little kids. So I could manage the planning because I just, I'm not thinking of 20 students' lessons all at once. But then I got to the point when I started adding more and more students that it's hard to keep track and replan the same stuff over and over again. And so I took those little notes and I put them on this Google Doc. So this is just a little snippet of what I have. All of these are on my website for free. Anyone can look at them and use them if you are like, oh, I'd like to see more things. But this is just in Piano Adventures. I have like hyperlinks to, where it has the names of the songs. It has a hyperlink to a video that the student could watch that shows an example of what the song sounds like. And I try to choose ones that are like not just little kids playing, but like a teacher that's demonstrating proper technique and stuff. And then the games are just a reminder to me of what game I need to pull out from my shelf to do with them at the beginning of the lesson. And then the history, ear training, improv, composing stuff are just different activities that what I would do is when someone was coming, I would go quickly on my computer and pull up, hit all of these links, and then they would just hit each of the tabs and do those activities. And then after that, I would let them choose from other games and activities that I have. So I kind of think of my piano studio as kind of like a buffet. So you have to eat your vegetables first when you go to the buffet or your main dish. But then after that, you get to choose other things that are interesting to you. So it's not like every student has to do every single thing that's on the list. I present them with lots of possibilities and then let them choose the things that are most interesting to them. And it's just, kids are so different. It's interesting that some are like, I just want to do tonic tutor the whole time, which is it's a website that has all these different games that are ear training. And anyway, I'll show you a little bit more about that later. And there's others that are like, I want to do piano maestro because I want to learn this next new cool song. And there's others that like to improvise, and so they'll watch these create first videos and then try all the crazy different sound effects on my keyboard. And my other children who are home are like, your student is crazy. They're playing like fireworks in there, because there's drum beats and fireworks and weird sound effects. But for me, the goal is just that they're finding joy, and they're going to find more joy when they're getting to have some choice in what they're doing, because you're more engaged when you're choosing what you want to do. So this is kind of how I started. And that worked better than the pencil thing that I had, right? I could quickly go and just click, click, click. They're doing this song. These are the things we're going to do today. But then a few years ago, I was asked to be on a panel for a pilot tester for Piano Adventures. So they had teachers from around the world try this new platform that Piano Adventures wanted to see if they wanted to open up to the general public. And so for about a year, I was a tester for it was called My Piano Adventures platform. And they don't have it anymore, so I don't have a picture of what it was like. But this is just a sample of kind of like some of the things they had on it. They would have this really organized, beautiful looking website, and they had the content of all of their lesson books and technique books and supplementary materials. And it's kind of like, instead of writing in a little notebook the assignment for your student, you were adding the hyperlinks to all of the videos and activities that go along with it. And I don't know if most of you are familiar with this, but they've recently, in the primer level and the earlier level books, they have QR codes that you can snap a picture of, and it will take you to their website. And it has the practice things, the performance tempo, things that the student can play along with. But I loved the super student challenges that are like, if you have a student that's like getting concepts really quickly, the super student challenges have a teacher that's teaching them in their home, like demonstrating for them different things they could do with the song, whether it's like changing the octaves or having your hand flip over or doing a doing it in a different, transposing it to a different key. So it's like opening up new windows of exploration and possibilities for them. And not all students are that motivated, right? But some of them are, and it's just kind of fun to see that when they want more, they can get more, and they don't have to wait till their next lesson to learn more about the next best thing that they could do with their song. And so with this, they also would allow you to link all these other resources from anywhere. So I took all my stuff from my spreadsheet and I put it on added all those YouTube reminder videos for Piano Safari, or little videos that teach you in an engaging way about the different types of note values. And their purpose was to have the students do it at home. But I found, because I have the lab set up, it was perfect for the lab, because it's like they're there, they're going to do it. It's not like when you send home the theory workbook and then it comes back blank again the next week. I love having that designated time where they're with me and they're going to be doing these supplementary activities, but it's not necessarily taking more time from me other than the initial hundreds of hours it took me to put all this together. But I like doing that. I love organizing. So then when they yanked that from me, I had a week's notice, and they're like, sorry, we're not doing this anymore. We decided not to do it. I was like, oh, I have spent so much time transferring all my stuff over. I'm like, I don't want this to be yanked from me again. And it was, I did have my Google Docs that it's not like they took all of my notes from me, but I decided that I was just I have a blog, so I decided I'm just gonna put all these things on my blog on the internet where all of my students can see it, anyone in the world can see it. And so I went through all of the main books that I use, which is Piano Adventures, Piano Pronto, and then these other ones are just some supplementary books that I've started doing too. And I have, for every song in every book, we'll go through it, the supplementary activities that are flipped learning things that students can explore, whether it's at home or whether it's at the lesson during the lab time, to prepare them better for the songs and concepts that we'll be doing together. And this is all free, so I'm not selling anything. I'm just sharing with you how I organize things. So the first thing that I have for every song is just a music sample. And I know there's varying opinions on this. Some people are like, I don't want the kids to hear every song, because then they'll just learn to play everything by ear and they'll never actually learn to read music. But what I found is, because I have so many other games and activities, there are kids who definitely primarily learn by ear, and that's kind of a crutch for them. But I'm doing so many other things where they are required to name the notes and name the intervals that I don't find that there's any that are clueless about reading music. And I actually sometimes wish I could play by ear like some of them can, because I'm amazed how some can just come in and just whip out stuff, and I'm like, wow, I'm a visual learner. That's my primary language. But I think the part that makes this even more powerful is not just that they're passively listening, it's that they're engaging. I call this hand over the pencil. I have a bunch of erasable colored pencils. And so I give them to them so that they can be engaged in not just listening, but do something with what they're listening to. So this quote just says, engagement activates the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with motivation and memory. And isn't that what we want? Our students to be motivated, and we want them to remember what we're presenting to them. I put chocolate there because that's my motivation sometimes. I love it. And it gives me my dopamine hits too, right? So this is just a sample. I just took a screenshot of one little segment of my blog of a beginning level piece that I have the YouTube video embedded in there. That makes it so they're not going to go happy clicking on YouTube to all kinds of different things, because I have mine blocked where it's you can only go to the music stuff when you're at music lessons. You can't just, start watching Dude Perfect or whatever you decide to do. But then at the top it says draw a line over each measure that has only thirds, because in this song they're learning more about thirds. So that's an idea for a very beginner thing to do, for them to analyze their music and start coloring the patterns so that they're able to sight read better in the future. Then these are just some other things that I've had them do. If I'm introducing a new interval, then they color the intervals. And because my lessons I have 2 come at once, sometimes they're not doing this before, they're doing it with me, and then the next week then they're doing it before. Do you know what I mean? So every other week they're doing the activity for their song either before or after they've met with me. So I'm showing them how to identify these things, so it's not like I'm just like, hey, just do this. Like, they've identified intervals with me before. They've looked at musical form before, because sometimes we do it together. So for musical form, they label the A, B sections. They can even come up with creative titles if they want to. The chord symbols for older students, whether they want to color the red, yellow, and blue chords like Let's Play Music, or put the 1, 4, 5, 6 chord symbols in. For dynamics, I have them from the very beginning do yellow to orange to red in different shades. I have like 5 or 6 different shades of colored pencils, and so that just makes it more salient in their music. And because we know lots of kids, they just don't even notice the dynamics. They're so fixated on just the reading process that just goes out the window. But if they're listening to it for the first time and they're having to go color those little things in their music, they're more likely to play it because that's how they heard it and they're seeing it. And then for a more advanced student, I have them find the high points of phrases, even if the phrases aren't marked out, or identify the parts where the melody and harmony, like I color yellow the parts that are supposed to be softer, like whether the right hand or the left hand has the prominent part, or draw in the sharps and flats for the key signature. So those are all things that I would, like, here's the video and then here's the stuff you do with it. Now this is, how many of you guys have seen line writers before? Raise your hand. Only a couple, okay. So this is probably one of the favorite, I love teaching younger children. So my students are between 6 and 16, but more of the younger ones. And they love these. They're little videos that have classical music with a video of a sledder going on these crazy things. I'll show you a sample. The next part shows a sample. But what I like about it is that even though they're playing a piano arrangement, usually of a classical orchestrated thing, it's helping them to hear the layers in the music. It's helping them to, well, I say, when you watch it, see how many, if they're watching it with me, like, how many things can you name? How many musical symbols can you name as you're going along this ride on the line writer? I will admit, I have some students that have just gone looking for all the line writer videos on all of the, like, they'll listen to the one thing I ask, and then they're just searching all of my lessons for all the line writer videos. But I don't see that as a bad thing. They're listening to lots of classical music. That's going to help them become a more expressive player. And they're the pieces they'll be eventually learning. So let's just listen to a little bit of this one. I like how that even shows the difference in the way the music changed, right? And then this is like, you can hear long phrases, short phrases.
And also visualize the downbeat.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to the next part. So you can see how it's just kind of satisfying to watch that. If I just, did what, my teacher actually didn't actually have me listen to stuff, but in college they were like, go to the listening lab and you go get the card catalog and find the thing and you just listen to it with your headphones. Like, this is way more engaging for a child to do. They're more likely to listen to their song if they get to watch this cool thing that's actually showing them elements of the music. So those are just on YouTube. For a lot of famous orchestrated classical pieces, I just Google the name of a piece if I have a piano arrangement and see if there is one. And if there is one, I'm like, yes, I'm adding that to the plan. When children follow their curiosity, they not only enjoy learning, but they also retain information more effectively. And I mean, isn't that true with any of us? I think if you're curious, like I don't care about electrical engineering. So if I were to go to something about electrical engineering and someone's telling me all this information, it's like half of it's going to go out the window because I could care less. But if I'm going to go to something that's about music or family history, like I'm all in, I'm absorbed. And so presenting lots of options to them and then seeing what engages them, letting them choose what engages them is going to help them remember things more. So this is an example of just for when there's Fior-Elise in the Piano Pronto book, I have these different options. And I don't say you have to listen to all of these. They're all Fior-Elise, but with different videos. And one kid might really think, that's a cool thing. What is that giant piano? It's the piano guys, and we all know the piano guys are pretty amazing in what they do with it. Plays like the regular song, and then it goes off and does all this awesome, creative stuff that's just entertaining and engaging. Or the McDonald's, hey, or, oh, I wish I were already there instead of here playing this song. I remember this when I was a kid that it would come on because I'm that old, where she's at a recital and she makes a mistake, but she can't wait to get the chocolate shake at McDonald's. But it's words that are put to the song of McDonald's. So sometimes when they see McDonald's, it's like, oh, I wonder what that is. So one kid might actually listen to all four of these just because they can't help themselves. Like they want to see, well, what is that? There's the line writer, and then the other one was like, it's telling a story. It has a little girl, and then as she's growing up through the different phases of life and gets married and finds her husband. But I like how it shows that music tells a story, and it will come back to the certain, just like in the form of the music comes back to certain parts. The video that's created kind of does that too. So that's just like I don't know, the musical buffet that I let them choose from, and maybe they eat it all, and that's awesome. So I just wanted to highlight a few other resources, like from YouTube, some of my favorite ones. Have any of you guys ever listened to these University of Iowa piano pedagogy? I feel like I apologize for any string people out here because I'm piano centric because it's what I do, but their goal is to have 9,000 videos, but they have very quality videos on quality instruments with professional college-level professors performing an example of the repertoire that starts with the easiest piano repertoire and just moves up and up. And so when I'm searching for a piece and I see, sometimes I'll just search for the piece name in UI Piano Ped if I know it's one that's just in the standard repertoire. Because I know it's going to be quality. And I do wish that they showed their hands a little closer up, because then and so sometimes I'll choose a different one for that reason. Or sometimes I feel like they're a little faster than what I would want a child to play a song at. So I don't always choose this, but it's a great resource to go to, even if you're just sending a text to a parent and saying, hey, here's this song that your child's going to be playing. Could you have them listen to it this week so that they become familiar with the way that it sounds and it's going to help their expressive playing if they're familiar with what it sounds like. And then this piano teacher has almost everything else. So she has videos of a lot of the standard method books. So all of the Faber books, a lot of the Faber supplementary materials, and Alfred, Snell, RCM, and some of the in recital with Helen Marley or whatever. I know you girls, you feel free to take this, but on my blog, I posted this whole thing. So.
And then have you already said what your blog is?
Oh, I didn't. I can write it down here. I just posted it today, like the link to this that anyone can see. So it's Heidi's piano notes. I started this blog when I was doing a piano preschool, and I was just trying to send the supplementary things to the parents. And then it's evolved into how I organize all my stuff. But I like teaching a lot more than I like blogging, so I apologize if it's not amazing in some ways. Oh, that's not working very well. Switch to this. And I like how, I don't know, these just, they stand out to me when I'm looking on YouTube, because she has like a whole book that she's doing this weird thing, and then she's doing this, and then she's just doing these funny things. And then some of them, like this, do you want to build a snowman? When I have that as an option for a supplementary piece, and the kid sees that, they're like, oh, I want to hear that. And then they might want to learn that, because I tie it to another piece of repertoire that's in their lesson book that has similar concepts or that's a similar level, and just say, this is a possibility of something you could learn if you want to borrow it from my music library. That's just another, that's like, yeah, her classic, she does some interesting thing to get you going. But what are some other, I don't know if any of you have do this a lot where you send out recordings to your students, but what are some other resources that you've found that maybe I don't know about, that have videos that you've liked or recordings that you've liked that you can share with your students? Does anyone have any favorites?
What are these listed here that you have?
That's, oh, this was the next thing that we're going to talk about. This is, I was going to talk about music history. This slide, I'm jumping ahead. I'll talk about that in a second. I just want to get some feedback from you guys, but if we don't have any, we can keep going. Should we keep? So then the next, so I have a music sample, and then if there is a music history element, I mean, there's not a music history element for Firefly in Piano Ventures, but in certain songs, there's music history that I want them to learn about. And so Leela Viss has a website that she has like a part on her website that's called Get Inspired. And it just has episodes of, it's almost like, it's more for teenagers, I would say, because it's just like lots of YouTube videos about certain topics. So she has a Baroque bash, and she has, there's the video that has like a Lego piano that some kid created with rubber bands, and it shows it on YouTube. But that's intriguing for a kid. But then she'll have Valentina list that she'll have the piano guys, or I don't know, just other famous performers performing music that like is way beyond the level of what our students are playing. But when they listen to it, they're like, oh, that is so cool. Like, I want to be that good, you know? And it's teaching about music history. The Passport to Music is one that she has that has different countries, and it's just different videos of different styles of music from, you know, Latin America, from Mexico, from Ireland. And so just different samples that it's kind of like your kids can just, if they want to learn more about different styles of music, they can do that. So when I'll link it to that is like if I have a Spanish piece that my student is learning, then I'll put the link to this where they can listen to lots of other Spanish music to just hear start to get in the groove of what does the Spanish style sound like. She has a post that's about musicians with grit, and it, you know, shows examples of people who've been through hard things that are, whether they're blind or I haven't explored all of these, but that's more of a teenage music history thing that your kids can explore. LeelaViss.com. If you just go Leela Viss Get Inspired, and at the bottom of this whole presentation, I have the hyperlinks that you can just click on if you're like, well, how did I get to that? This is the one I use more often, classicsforkids.com. Has anyone ever used that before? It's podcasts that were written for like a radio program somewhere in America, and they have, they're usually 5 minutes or less. They have little things that you can listen to about most of the famous composers, Bach, Brahms, Haydn, Beethoven. It tells a little about their life, but it's in a very kid-friendly way. Like it's not making you listen to this whole long piece. It will have a little snippet of a piece, and then the lady has this like animated voice. And the Halloween one they love because she, I don't know, she's like, and then she says some crazy thing. She's more animated than I am. That's why I'm like, yeah, you listen to this, because if I tell you about music history, it's not going to be as interesting as this. And she has all this music embedded. And now some kids just listening to something might be boring. especially if they have ADHD. So I will have that pulled up. They listen to that, and then they can also color a picture of a famous musician on this color.com website that has, they can make his face green and his wig purple and his whatever. They can make it be crazy, but it's just something to get them doing while they're learning about that composer. So I love how they teach about the history of the composers in a kid-friendly way, but then they also have episodes that are about what is a minuet, what is an overture, what is a rondo. So this little snippet is about what is a rondo, and then it shows you, here's the samples, like Yankee Doodle, they have as a sample to teach about a rondo, which is something kids are familiar with. And then, so you can just explore those. Now I will say on my blog, I was frustrated because I went through and put all the hyperlinks, and this is the downside of technology. And then about a month later, they decided to update their website and change all the links. So sometimes when I go to it, it's like, it says it's broken, and then I have to re-Google it and then put it in. So you think you have all your plans made, and then they change when you're dealing with technology. But it's still, I know how to get to it because I know there's something there, and then I just Google it and then add the new one, right? So if you guys find something and you want to tell me, hey, this is broken, I would be happy to fix it. Theory is an awesome way to use flipped learning because there's so many videos by awesome teachers out there that present ideas in interesting ways. So this is not necessarily so that's obviously not a video, but a game. This month I've been doing Squishy Squash, which really has nothing to do with music. Like Squishy Squash doesn't have anything to do with music, but it's just a funny thing when you're like, have you ever had a Squishy Squash? And in this game, they have to move along a game board and pick cards that say, name and explain 4 dynamic terms, or explain a rhythm as if you're talking to someone who hasn't studied music. So it's principles that I've taught them before, but then they're teaching back to each other, and it helps me to see how much are they getting. Or if you get the Squishy Squash card, then it's like you squash with squished, you have to step back and miss a turn, But it's just, I like how games are kind of like a non-threatening, it's not like a test. You're just like, you just pick the card and see what you can say about it. And sometimes they're more creative than I am in the way they explain something. This one is, I actually had I had to subscribe to Vibrant Music Teaching Colorful Keys to get this one. But she has a lot of other ones for free, too. But you could take the same concept and just make a set of cards that say concepts you want your students to explain to you, whether it's an intermediate level or an elementary level concept, and then there's free game boards for homeschoolers that you can print out too. It's called Squishy Squash, and it's from Vibrant Music Teachers. It's Nicola Canton. She's from Ireland, and she's one of my favorite bloggers too. So let's watch a couple of videos. Oh, this is just, I love games. That's just me playing Sorry Sliders with one of my students. But I think you can tell they are catching on to something when they don't want to quit. And I don't know, like we were introducing the landmark notes of C, and when they just want to keep doing it, that's good learning. So this again comes back to the artwork that I kind of talked about before. So these are just a few more of the concepts that there's videos for. So I think at the bottom I have the link again, or you can even click on it there, elementary flipped learning concepts. So you could browse through all of those and just choose the ones that your students at this time are supposed to be learning about, and then they can watch, a different one watches a different video, and then they teach each other, or even they teach you. They have to come back with a poster that they're teaching you about the concept that they learned about. I need to move a little more quickly. So can you guys guess what concept, this is an illustration that one of my students made for a intermediate level concept. Can anyone guess what this is? You might not be able to, but I thought I was pretty clever. It's a type of ornament.
It's what?
It's a type of ornament.
Slur and staccato?
No.
It's type of ornament, okay.
And the guy, you can kind of think of the guy's pants are the note. It's an inverted mordant. So I was talking about ornaments, and we had mordants and trills and chocaturas, I think I used to say it. Anyway, so that is how one of my students illustrated in mordant, because it's like you're on the note and then you quickly go to the other note and then you come back to the note that you're on. So that's the kind of poster that, like, when they create the art, that's not something I would have come up with. Then they have it posted in the music studio. Then my younger students are like, what's a mordant? What is this? And they want to know more about it. It just sparks their curiosity. So I thought that was a fun one. So I've posted a few videos on YouTube, but I've discovered when I took the music technology class that I don't really like technology. I mean, obviously I do all this technology stuff, but I don't like creating the technology. So this is a very basic example of a technology video that I created. Many of you have probably seen this hack about how do you identify sharp key signatures. You go a half step higher. But my teacher taught me a different way. I'm just going to show it to you real quick.
Different scales. The key of C
I want to make it
zero sharps because the letter C looks similar to a zero.
Now, if you're a board
Rest of the
student,
keys, as you draw the letter for the key,
oh, I can't make it
it
work.
tells you how many sharps there are in the key.
Oh, sorry. I'm trying to make it faster because you know how you're a student. Sometimes you're like, this isn't not going fast enough for me. I can't make it go faster on here, but I can at home.
To help you remember
So
the
you'll-
number of sharps in different scales. The key of C has zero sharps because the letter C looks similar to a zero. The rest of the keys, as you draw the letter for the key, it tells you how many sharps there are in the key signature based on how many pencil strokes you have to make. So the key of G, 1.
And you have to emphasize the curve on that G.
The key of D, 1, 2, has 2 sharps. The key of A, 1, 2, 3, has 3 sharps. The key of E, 1, 2, 3, 4, has 4 sharps. The key of B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And I say that's the bad B because it's sharp, it's pointy.
Has
Yeah.
5 sharps. The key of F sharp, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, has 6 sharps. And the key of C sharp, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, has 7 sharps.
So that stuck with me when my teacher showed it to me. So when she's like, can you play the A scale? Like, I can just think, A, 3. Okay, that's the one with 3 sharps. I know my order of my sharps. So that's I'll have my students watch that and then explain it to me or explain it to another student. But that's not the obvious, that's not like the most quality video, right? That's just my quality of video. But oh. So Nicola Canton, who's the one who made this video or this game, has a whole set of theory books that you can buy. But
are written at the start of a piece to tell us how quickly or slowly it should be played.
she does this for tons of different theory
Means quick
concepts.
and lively.
And I like how she shows it, you see it, you hear it, like it's,
Picture a leg growing quickly to help you remember it. Allegretto means moderately quick and lively. Think of the etto as making allegro a little bit smaller. Moderato means moderate speed. You only need to change the O to an E. Andante means walking pace. Think of ants walking along together to help you remember this one.
so I like, with that one I took it one step farther and I said, Andante is a, oh, we'll move it on to the next one. Andante as an ant, and Andante marches walking pace, hurrah, hurrah. So I ask them, like, can you find the missing ant the missing bug in the word, and they look for that, and then we march, and anyway. But she was the one that gave me the idea of that. So we're not going to watch this video, but this is just another concept that like I would have a student watch first before I explain to them, because I like the way that their visual explains it better than if I was just talking about it. And then this could be a you be the teacher thing where you're like, okay, you watched that video, now how could you get the group to do something? Like how could you teach the class about this concept? Like what's the difference between 3/4 and 6/8? They could draw a picture that has raspberries and beetles, because I think of 6/8 has the feeling of raspberry, 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 and 3/4 is more like beetle, 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 even though they have the same number of beats in the measure. You're looking at me like, you know what I'm talking about? Like the notes are grouped in 3/4, like 2/8, 2/8, 2/8, whereas in 6/8 it's raspberry, raspberry. So the strong and weak beaks. I'm thinking of the stressed note is matching the words that I'm saying. So they could draw a picture of a raspberry and a beetle and talk about it like that, or they could have the group do a little dance that is using those actions, or a clapping thing like I just did where I was like raspberry, raspberry, beetle, beetle, beetle. I just like to see what they glean and then how they present it. This is the same vibrant music teaching, Nicola Canton, she has the sample scales for all the major and minor scales. It starts with pentascales, it has major scales. And I like that she shows you what it looks like on the staff, she shows you what it looks like on the keyboard, and then she actually plays it for you and will show you the finger numbers and show all of these different ways. So even though I don't have my kids doing contrary at first, they're watching the video of it, so then when I eventually introduce contrary, they're like, oh, I've seen that before, because it's on this video. And if they forget the scale that you showed them and the fingering at the lesson, then they can access it at home and be like, oh, how do I do that? And they can watch it again. This is another one of my favorite YouTube people. Piano Ann is what she used to be called, but Ann Crosby Cadet. Now she switched over to playing the harp, so she has a lot of harp stuff. But she has some great things for teaching just more theory concepts. And hers are like the more professional videos. I won't show the whole thing on this because we're going to run out of time here. But I'll just show you a sample of what I like about it.
Every key signature has a major key and a minor key. The scale of D major has 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp.
So it's like you're hearing it, you're seeing it in multiple ways.
The same 2 sharps.
And then I like how she hops it over like that.
Relative minor. The easiest way to find the relative minor is to count down 3 semitones or 3 half steps from the major key. 1, 2, 3.
All right, we'll move on from that. But she has a lot of other ones about like the key signatures and the circle of fifths, and more not just like elementary concepts, but I like the way her visuals make it more memorable. Tonictutor.com, that is another, that's not necessarily teaching them, it's like testing them, but they learn, it's a platform that you have to pay for, and I pay like $16 a month for 20 students, so it's less than $1 a month for all of my students to have access on an iPad, on a phone, on a computer. I have some kids, and they have contests, so every month at group lessons, I say whoever is on the top 3 on the 2 contests of it, either getting the highest score or doing it the most, getting the most achievements, gets a bonus Tootsie Roll or prize, which it's funny how kids are so motivated by a Tootsie Roll, But or having their name on the board that's like recognizing that they really worked extra hard to do more than just at the lesson, but at home. And they have ear training things, they have like visual intervals, they'll have like a little snippet where they'll play something and you have to fill in the missing notes that were at the end of it. It's just it develops overall musicianship. And So if you are interested in that, you can put in that code and you'll get 50% off on the first month. But these are good for young kids because they're short. Like each activity only takes, I have them do 10 in a 30-minute time. And they can sometimes do all those plus more stuff because they're really, a 4-question thing on one concept, and then it moves on to the next one and the next one, and they get to choose the order of which things they want to do. And when they finish, they can choose any of the 40 games at any level. So if they're like, oh, I think I'm really good at my scales, I want to learn, do the rock climber one over and over again to show that I know the pattern of the scales that you're climbing up the rocks and saying the letter names of them, they can move up to level 10 even if they're like a little kid, because if they know how to do it, or they just want to explore and they get it wrong and then they learn from getting it wrong how to get it right. And then piano, this lady, Lisa Witt, is very dynamic. This is one of my favorite videos for teaching dynamics. And you'll see why. Well, you can just see from the front. She's dynamic.
To make an impact. Have you ever heard somebody play a simple piece of music and thought to yourself, wow, why doesn't it sound like that when I play it? Well, my friends, the answer to that question is dynamics. Dynamics are what can take a simple, boring song and turn it into something that will have you laughing or crying. Dynamics are the expressive element in music. They usually refer to changes in volume, becoming louder or softer, which brings me to my first point. Here's an example. If I were to say to you, today is the best day of your life, in a flat and boring voice, you would not believe me. But if I were to say, today is the best day of your life, you might be inclined to either laugh or get excited with me too. So let's take a look at how that applies to the piano when we play. We have lots of things that we can pull out of our tool belt. We can change volumes, we can start soft and go to loud, we can start loud and go to soft. And my most favorite tool would be crescendo and decrescendo. And these are gentle sort of swells in volume where you become gradually louder or gradually softer. So
and I just stopped it there. So then she goes on and plays an example of To a Wild Rose with no dynamics, very flat, and then she plays it very expressive. I mean, I just love her hair is like dynamic, when you, I love.
Is she like piano?
Piano, it's piano.com, but it's also on YouTube. So I don't subscribe to her I think you could pay to learn how to play the piano. I already know how to play the piano, but she has a lot of quality videos on YouTube that are, some of them are even how do you play The River Flows in You, and she has a simplified version of it, and then she's showing you step by step. I mean, kids love that stuff. But I like her things a lot about chords and arpeggios. She'll show you how to play arpeggios in a way that you've never done it before, and it's the pitter-patter, just different rhythms, and adding a sus note to it to make it sound more interesting. And there's sometimes I watch her videos and I'm like, I didn't know that. I'm not a master's of music. And so just exploring what all these people have, they teach it, and I feel like that's more dynamic than me. And my kids are gonna remember it more than if I just tell them about dynamics. This is a more recent person that I found. Kate Boyd is a piano professor. I think it's in Indiana. So she has more college level tutorials. I have a minor in music. I don't have a major in music. I exercise here at BYUI, and I'm watching her videos about pedaling for different musical periods, or how to do fast passage rhythmic practice, where I've heard Paula teach us about it before, but where you have group it in 2s and pause, and then group it in 3s and pause, and then group it in 4s, when you have a whole string of lots of 8th notes. But she has just videos showing you how to do that in the repertoire. And it's not just her playing. She has some other extra things on the side, but that one is more for the older student. Like I said, we can't go into all. I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking, but I have lots of resources that I have found for flipped learning that I just love, because they can engage all different kinds of students. This is another thing that I use for theory. It's PetaPlus. So this is where you think, oh, my kids are only going to learn by ear if they're listening to their songs all the time. No, I do a challenge where they have to do this flash note thing with intervals, and they have to see how fast they can identify the intervals, or how fast they can identify the notes or the key signatures. If you click on that website, it's just like a little video game, and you can move up through the levels to where it will include major and minor intervals and augmented and diminished for the interval parts. Teoria.com, I don't know if any of you guys have used that before. I know that was embedded some of the activities in the musicianship class that I took, but these are all just like, theory resources that you can send to your students and have them do little exercises before they come to you. Now we're going to move on to the dessert part, because I usually think of usually I'll have my students do the music sample and the theory thing, and then I'm like, after that, you get to choose what you want to do. And so if they like to improvise, they might like to watch a little Create First improv video that shows them if I'm teaching about staccato and legato, I'll have hot sand and cool waters, and it just has him playing a sample of how, you can, when you're walking on the hot sand, you're going like that, and then when you're in the cool waters, you're flowing around on the, you want to make that feeling of smooth on the black keys, but it's more interesting and difficult than what they can do. But then it's like you listen to his sample, and then he explains what I just explained to you in more words probably, and then they get to create their own song that's hot sand, cool waters, that's showing that they know how to do staccato and legato with the freedom of not having to be stuck on the page. And it's amazing for some kids that struggle with reading music, how musical they really are when you unleash that side of music to them, and you get to see that, like, wow, they really are skilled. It takes them a little bit longer to figure out the reading process than maybe some other students. So this is when Lisa said, when your students are teaching you, this is something my student taught me. I had a student that loved to improvise, and I just asked him to go home and improvise on the G major scale and come back and show me what they came up with. And he came back and was like, oh, I found this website, and it's actually like the backing tracks for a lot of YouTube videos that you see. And then he turned it on, and then I went to it on my phone. Then he started to improvise to this. So it's really kind of standalone music, but you can listen to this and you can just go play your scale, or just 3 notes. Or go. And sometimes you hear, oh, my thing didn't quite match what that is matching. But these are on YouTube as well. And one summer I went through a whole bunch of them, and I just identified the key, and I made a list of what key. So when I am introducing a student to the C scale, they learn the C scale, and I'm like, okay, now turn on one of the ones that you like here. Here's another C scale one that's just different vibe. And you can hear this one's more like heart and soul chords kind of in the background. So they can choose the backing track that they like, and then you tend to imitate the way that it is. Like on that one, I might play the notes a little more staccato because it just has a more jivey feeling. And then in that process, you're learning how to play your scales, like the notes of the scale that are required. If you're doing the B flat and you have to remember, it's not going to sound good if you don't do the B flat. Yes?
Identify the key that it's in before, and you went back and identified.
I went and did it, yeah. So if you go to this, if you click on, in this thing, if you click on backing tracks arranged by key signature, it has my blog post that has all of them listed by key. I have on my, if you Google Heidi's Piano Studio on YouTube, I do have one, like a C scale playlist, so you can just have the whole C scale playlist, but I didn't get around to doing it for all the keys yet. So I love that. My student taught me about that. Now I pass it on to my other students. I already showed you a little bit about this, and I think we've talked about this at the composing webinar, but if you haven't heard of Create First by Forrest Kinney, that's one of the best resources for getting your kids to improvise. And my teacher never taught me about improvisation. So this was, Forrest taught me about improvisation. I saw some other piano blogger tell about him, and I was like, I want that book. I want to learn how to do this. So I actually got this one, Pattern Play first, which the cover, like, isn't that just cool? Like, you can tell he's a creative guy if he came up with that for the, and it has like the articulation, hot sand, cool water thing. That's the example that I showed you. But he has songs that are just on the black keys that you can introduce your students to at the first lesson. And then there's harder ones that have seventh chords or that have the classic 1-4-1-5 chord progression. But he shows you a sample and then he teaches you. You don't actually even have to have the book, although it helps. But what I'll do is, if I'm introducing my students to a certain interval, then I'll have them do the piece that has lots of fifths. So it's like, here's what a fifth looks like, here's what it sounds like, now you play with fifths on the piano. Or if I'm introducing him to a Latin sounding piece, then there's like a Latin sounding improv that you can watch him do and then play with. So that's the dessert if they want to. Some students love it, some of them are like, that's too scary, I don't like to make mistakes. This is another great resource on YouTube. Winnan Rossi has just a whole playlist about composing tips. So like if I have a student that is learning a song about a frog or a bunny or something that's illustrating the animal in the music, then I have this assignment tied to that where it says creating creature sounds. And she gives you an example of how you can improvise on the piano to represent different creatures and what would that sound like? What would a shark sound like? What would a bunny sound like? And so it's just like filling their musical palette, and then they get to choose what they want to do with those musical colors to create their own piece if they would like. I guess we're getting to the end here, so I gotta fast forward. I'll just show you a few of my favorite technique video people. Graham Fitch does a master class on YouTube that I just stumbled on when I was trying to learn more about the 4 types of staccato, and I loved the examples that he gave, but he's teaching to like an older audience, and there were no pictures. So on my blog, if you click on this, which I won't because then it will take me away and make this messed up, I just added some pictures to show like there's finger staccato that's like plucking, there's wrist staccato that's like hitting a basketball, there's forearm staccato, like different things that represent those. And then I made a worksheet so my students watch it, they can see the pictures, and then they just do the multiple choice worksheet to show that they understand the different types of staccato. We kind of have talked about this, but choice in the classroom has been linked to increases in student effort, task performance, and subsequent learning. I am such a firm believer in like letting kids choose. And if obviously they can't choose everything. I have one student who will be like, I don't want to play this. I don't want to play this. Like, well, you have to do something. But usually they can find something that will appeal to them. And if there's a song that I don't like, I'll like, do you want to play this or do you want to move on to the next one? Because I don't really like this piece, but if you like it, we can do it. Because there's so much music out there that you can find something that they're going to like. In fact, I had, for my older students, that K-pop golden da 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 da. Anyway, I made this thing about tendency tones because when I heard that song, I'm like, this is like the tendency tones I had in my musicianship class. But all my young students saw that, they're like, oh, can I have that music? Like they wanted it. I'm like, oh, it's kind of harder than what you, like I haven't showed you how to do this yet, but we can do it next week and I'll show you. Like I don't know, it engaged them and they wanted to do it. So then they rose to the occasion because it was something they wanted. So sometimes when you give them options, they do more than what you think they can do because they chose it and they want it. So then at the end of all of my posts, I'll just have some supplementary pieces that go along with whatever the concept is. Like if they're playing in a certain key that's new to them, that's like, here's more songs in the key of B flat that you could choose if you want to, and we could. So it helps with my lesson planning because I'll just look real quick and be like, oh, I bet this student would like this one, and I'll pull that, and then if they want to, we can add that on or do it the next week. This is something I discovered when I had a student. They played a song they loved, and they're like, "Is there something you have that's more like this?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'll look." So I didn't find anything in my music library, and then I started looking online, and I found these books that are for teens that have like all different keys, but they're more like cinematic feeling. Like you can hear how this sounds like it could be something that's in a movie. Like so when I had my student learn this in the group lesson and she's performing it, I had everyone else, I didn't tell them the name of it. I'm like, what are you imagining is happening in this movie right now? And then at the end, they all shared like what happens in the movie, because you hear it starts all calm, and now it's getting something intense is happening. But what was cool is she found this from a YouTube playlist that I sent her of like, here's more stuff from the same person you might like. I bought the book. I love the book. But it got her doing, these crossovers that she wasn't doing before. This 1, 5, 8, 9, 10 is what I call it when you're crossing your hand over. She became so much more fluent in skills that she wouldn't have encountered in her lesson book, because she found this, she loved it, and she memorized it. And anyway, so I have more students that are like now requesting, can I do that song that Eliza did? Because that sounded so cool. So I like how that's, again, like my student led me to something that I wouldn't have found on my own that now is blessing others. This is by the same Andrea Dow. I don't love this illustration does not represent the way the music sounds at all in my mind. But what she does is she'll take classic pieces and then turn them into pop style. So there's one for Ode to Joy. There's one for some of the Bach musettes that are like, oh, this sounds sort of familiar, but it's in a different style. And I don't know, when I watch this video, it makes me want to cry, so. Our time is up, so I won't play this. This is for someone who has a very different style than the last piece, right? That's all calm and dreamy. Will Bailey has a whole bunch of free music online that has MP3 backing tracks that are different levels that you can listen to. So this is just a boogie song that for someone who doesn't like that calm cinematic style, they might really like this boogie. And it's cool because they can practice along with it. And it's cool because it's free. His website is a little bit harder to navigate because there's nothing in it's not in alphabetical order. It's not necessarily in the order of difficulty. So I have to like browse. I made links to some of the MP3 files so they can listen to it, but then when I have to find it, I organize them by level in my own mind and printed them and put them in different colors that represent the colors of my studio's levels, so that when I want them to do some supplementary stuff, I'll give them a folder and like, hey, you can listen to these on there, and then you can choose the one that you like. So that's how I use his music. Oh, wow. Okay, I forgot that I have, yeah, we'll breeze through this. So for festival piece selection, I let them listen to a playlist, but I also suggest, here's 2 or 3 songs I think you'll like, but maybe pick a few more. And then I have this little paper that I have them fill out where we put the name of the song, and they have to say, it's like a listening exercise. You're just picking what's the tempo, what is the articulation, how much do you like it? That's the main thing I want to know, because I want them to have pieces they really like. Now, sometimes this backfires, because I had a young 7, 8-year-old student that chose a song, and we started the first page, and then I flipped it, and I'm like, oh, there's syncopated pedaling, and she's shorter than I thought. And maybe I should say, no, we're not doing this, but she did it. She didn't get 100, but I mean, it's hard when you're like going like, when you don't have a pedal extender, which I don't. But she loved the piece, and she's one of the few 7, 8-year-olds that's like knows how to do syncopated pedaling because she chose a piece that had that and actually learned how to do it pretty well as far as the timing of it. It just doesn't make the positioning awesome. I also do, this kind of goes along with the multiple choice, letting them do what they love. For Halloween every year, I go to this Don't Scare Me, Surprise Me challenge this is also linked at the bottom. This is just half of it, but it just has all these different possibilities of what you can do. And so I had one student that composed a song, and they like came back with it all written out, because it just had a blank staff and used D, E, F, G, like the D minor scale for it. I had another one that didn't really want to compose, but they liked this Addams Family triplety tap, where we did some cups, and I sent it home and then had them bring it back and do it with me again the next time. And then there's the Create Verse videos with a Moonrise one that's kind of got Halloween vibes, so they watch that video. So it's just kind of fun to let them choose and come back and show you what they did, and let them have the control, I guess. When they have the control, sometimes that brings out new levels of skill. And this is another thing, every summer, sometimes over Christmas break or fall break, I'll just send home a little bingo thing where they get to choose different things. The blindfolded songs are interesting sometimes when they choose a song that's moving all over, and I'm like, yeah, it doesn't sound awesome, but it helps them have a new skill of like having to learn to feel on the keys instead of just read everything. We're getting here to the end. So this is what I said at the beginning. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. And I was going to actually have you guys come up and I was going to involve you more and have you come up and improvise, but could see that like then you'd be here for way longer, so I didn't do that. But here at the end, I have a bunch of the links where if you go to it, it has more of the things that I talked about. So
that will be in an email that comes to us?
yeah, I think
Is it already?
well, if you go here, you can actually click my whole presentation that I just did.
Okay.
But I can also send it to Lisa, and she can send a link to that as well. Does anyone have any questions? I feel like I just like told all of you this stuff, but yeah.
What is your lesson format and time length?
It's an hour, so I have 2 students come. If they're younger, I'll usually spend more like 15, 20 minutes doing the game because they love it and the interaction. So it's 20, 20, 20, like 20 together and then 20 in the lab while I'm teaching the other, and then they swap. But if they're older, we don't do as long on the game, and because they can also handle themselves more in the lab for the whole time without being distracted. So that's more like 5 or 10 minutes together. And sometimes I'll do, they're doing a duet together. So instead of doing a game, they come and they practice a little duet together and then split off. So
It's like a semi-private lesson?
well, I'm privately with them when they go. So I have 2 rooms. I have the piano in one room, and then I have a keyboard in the other room with an iPad. And so when they're doing their lab, they're not with me. They're on their own, and I'm doing the private lesson with with one student, and then we switch.
So you do 20 minutes, all 3 of you, and then 20 minutes individually?
Yes, but I would say it's more like 10. How do you divide that? My brain can't think.
25 and 25.
Yeah, 10, 25, and 25. So it
They need to be the same level.
yes, not always. I actually have a lot of the games. I'll have like, because I have some siblings that are not the same level, but it's just convenient for the parents to bring them at the same time, right? So I'll have like, if I have a game that has you're identifying the note names, it's like, well, this one's going to identify the note names, and this one, when you see the E, you have to say how many sharps are in that key signature. So it's the same game, but I make it harder for the concept that they're needing to do. But definitely, that does make it trickier with, when I take students on, that's one of the main things I'm looking for is not just, I don't know, how much experience you have. It's like, what level are you at, and will you fit well in the spot that I need to have a student put? It is. But then when I have them, they're there for years. It's just the same too. And I feel like they love the togetherness. It's a different level of synergy when they get to come and play this game. And then if it's just like, I don't know, it's just like when the one student's not there and it's just me, I don't think they like me as much. It's funny too to see that some students love the lab. Like I'll let them, some of them fight about who gets to do one thing first, whether it's the lab or be with me, right? So I have 2 siblings that come and they both want to do lab first. I should probably be offended that they don't want to be with me, but they love the lab. So I have to write down on a piece of paper like who did it first, so the next week I can remember who gets to do it first the next time, or else it was causing friction, you know. And then there's the others that come and they both want to be with me first, so same thing, but yeah. I don't, but it's in our room. So my piano is I have it in a bedroom with a door that shuts, and then it's in the adjoining bedroom with the door that shuts. So I can't really hear, I can hear, if the student is playing fireworks in the room next door on the highest volume level and they leave the door cracked, then it starts to be a little distracting, but that's not typically the case. And I have a lot of restrictions on, my iPad, like I say, I have to put a password in for it. It really is just like, it lets them go to my website, but it doesn't, and it lets them do the apps, but it doesn't let them just explore whatever they happen to find, because I have to unlock any website that I want them to go to for 15 minutes or whatever. Yeah, any other questions? Okay, awesome. If you guys want to look at some of these things more, you can. Or if you want to see the captivating artwork about Riten Yuto that's getting all of my students excited this week, you can come look at that. But that's all I have.